What is going on, everybody? And welcome back to another episode of the All Things Liverpool podcast with me, Anish Dogra. And I know it's been a long time, or quite a while that we've not done one of these episodes before. But some things have come up for both of us, and we've had a lot of things on our plate. But we're back, back better than ever. And the last time we did one of these episodes, a lot has happened with Liverpool, all in all positive, all in good fashion, and all really positive for us as well. So with Man City dropping points and us gaining points, looking good, looking like a team who can challenge them for the title, and just generally being the team that won the title a couple of years ago and the Champions League the year before. So let's get right into it, and we'll begin with the Norwich game. So going into the match, I think everyone was expecting a 3 points, and it turned out to be that way in the end. But it was a pretty sizable task. Since the Norwich we've seen for most of the season under Daniel Farker, where they were so easy to play against, they weren't working hard, they weren't like difficult to break down, and you didn't really have to do much to score past them. To the Norwich team now under Dean Smith, you can see there's been a big change with them. We found it much tougher to break them down. They were far more stubborn, made it far more difficult to get past them. And even though we probably did have enough chances to go 1-0 up at the break, I think Simicast had a good chance at the far post. Should have done better with that, and we had a couple of headers cleared off the line, and one that brought a good save from their keeper. But credit to them, and they made things difficult for us in the first half. And when games are often 0-0 at half time and one team has a lot of chances and the other team doesn't, you often got to praise the team that are defending, because they're coming to a very, very tough ground against a very, very good team, and have held out for that long. And going into the second half, of course, we obviously needed the 3 points, needed to keep the pressure up on Man City, and it couldn't have gone any worse for us at the beginning of the second half. Who was it? Milo Rashika, literally just bit of pot luck, just having a go from range, and if Joel Matip doesn't stick a leg out, Allison picks it up comfortably. But a big slice of luck for them, and in all honesty, I think it was probably a good thing for us, because, like I said, even though we probably did do enough to take the lead in the first half, we weren't really flowing. Our pressing wasn't very good, our interchange wasn't very good, the quality from the fullbacks weren't there either, and in general, I think the whole team looked quite sluggish. So that goal going in for Norwich, it really kicked us into shape, and it definitely brought the Anfield crowd to life. They were really, really good once we went 1-0 down, and they were really supportive of the team. And the great thing about this Liverpool squad is that we've seen that so many times under Jurgen Klopp, and so we'll see it so many more times for as long as he's there, is that they never give up, no matter how difficult the task is, no matter who the opposition is. And yes, even though on Saturday it was against Norwich, it showed that we are going to keep fighting no matter what, and we're going to keep trying our best to try and win the title. So going 1-0 down, we showed a really good response, and like against Inter Milan a few days ago in the Champions League, Jurgen Klopp substitutes, they made a big difference. So on Wednesday, it was Roberto Firmino who came on and got the goal, albeit he came on because of an injury to Jota, but instant impact, and he played very well when he came on. And it was the same again against Norwich. We brought on Divock Origi, we brought on Thiago, and the difference was, it was almost like watching two different teams. Thiago honestly is our best midfield player. I'd go as far as saying as he's probably the most controlled central midfielder we have, and the best passer we have since Xabi Alonso. And he left 13 years ago in 2009. So having a player like that to call upon, whether he's in the starting 11 or whether he's coming off from the bench, it's just so beneficial for us. And you can see for the first goal, he started playing passes, he sprayed it left and right, he quickened play up, and the intelligence of his passing as well was the biggest thing. playing, that little cute 5-yard pass around the corner when, he could have just played it left or right to the fullbacks. And him coming on, it brought more space on for the players. It got us in attacking positions quicker, and therefore giving us more space. So wonderful impact from him. I respect nothing less as well for a player of that quality. And this season when he's played, I think he's drawn one and won the rest, and I think it's been like 12 or 13 wins, something like that. So it clearly shows the impact he's having on this Liverpool team. And then Divock Origi, who else? Like the absolute king, the man, the myth, the legend. Words and stories and books, everything will be written about that man one day when he calls time on his career. But even though he didn't score on Saturday, again, he was a real impact on the team, having an actual focal point up top. A tall guy, a strong guy, quite quick as well, and he occupied that Norwich back line, and therefore it gave more space for Mane, Salah, and Diaz to show off their flair. And even then, when Origi got the ball, he looked threatening. He looked like he could go past a man. He looked like he could dribble around a man. He could hold the ball up whenever it was like pinged into him. So brilliant impact from him, and very good to see him back as well, because he's been injured for the last 2 months. I think the last time he played was against AC Milan when the group stages were still happening in the Champions League. So great to see him back, and a very, very good tool to have for the rest of the season. And as for the goals themselves, 3 very, very good goals. Mane, he finally scores, the overhead kick. I can't remember, I've lost count how many times he's tried scoring an overhead kick. And, he tried it against Inter Milan in midweek and it hit the side net this time. But I think on this occasion, he had a bit more luck on his side by the fact that he was in the middle of the penalty area, relatively unmarked, and as long as he got his foot over the ball, he was always going to have a more than good chance of scoring. And so he did. So really good impact from him. It was great to see him score as well. I think that's only his second or third goal in the turn of the year, and his first at Anfield in months. So great to see him back on the score sheet. And then the second goal, I mean, it's absolutely genius. Firstly, from Alisson, people might think it's a clearance. It's definitely not, because goalkeepers, and particularly players like Alisson, like Edison, the top keepers in the game, they'll rarely ever, kick it 60, 70, 80 yards unless they see a really good opportunity. And credit to Alisson, he did. He saw Salah in acres of space. It was a perfectly weighted, I'm going to say pass, because it was a pass. And Salah from that position, I mean, he's absolutely ruthless. Picking the ball up, firstly, to bring down an 80-yard pass is it's no short feat in itself. So that was, tremendous as well. And then to muscle up the defender, I think. And with Angus Gunn rushing out, he just showed so much composure, so much class. And even then, with 2 defenders running on the line, he just, used his brain, even on his weaker right foot, and just calmly put it into the bottom corner. Anfield went wild after that. I think it was 2 goals in 4 minutes. So understandably, they were, absolutely ecstatic. And it was very, very important as well. And I think everyone inside the ground could feel the significance of that goal going in. At the time, obviously, Man City weren't playing. We'll talk about that in a minute. But to put that pressure on to close the gap to 6 points, it was absolutely vital. And then to cap it all off, Luis Diaz, he's been so impressive, I think, so far in his short spell at Anfield, getting his first goal. And what a great goal it was too. The whole move, I think Liverpool put out a video the other day, and there was 35 passes leading up to the goal. So a real team goal. And then Jordan Henderson, who, I am his biggest fan. I absolutely love him. I thought, when he took over from Gerrard as captain, I was absolutely delighted for him, and I thought he deserved it, contrary to many people's belief. But in recent weeks, I'm also been one of his critics. I don't think I think he's been pretty poor in form. I don't think he's showing the football that he knows he can play, and we know he can play. But against Norwich, I thought he was fantastic. He was an absolute leader on the pitch, and the quality of that pass was absolutely outstanding. If Kevin De Bruyne or Lionel Messi are playing those kind of passes, we'll still be talking about it today. So perfectly weighted pass from the skipper, and a great run from Diaz as well. And then with the keeper on rushing, he showed great composure as well. Again, like Salah, on his weaker foot, it didn't matter, left foot or right foot. he just coolly dinked the keeper. So a wonderful start for him, a brilliant impact he's had so far. I think that's four games now where he's featured in. The debut against Cardiff, brilliant moment for him. I think he got an assist in that match and showed how good his pressing was. Against Leicester, I thought he was outstanding. That was him. The great thing about this Liverpool team is the partnerships they have on the left and right hand side. So on the right is Trent and Salah, on the left is Robbo and Mane. And on his debut, Diaz looked like he'd been playing with Robertson for about 5 years. So it was wonderful to see them be on par with each other and to have that chemistry from the get go. So really great signs there. And then again in midweek he came on against Inter Milan and was busy as a bee. He harassed. He was skillful. He was quick. He did everything that you'd want a substitute to do when coming on. So wonderful stuff from him. Absolutely delighted, and you can see why Tottenham was so eager to get him and why we stole in, to make sure we secured the signing instead of them, because there's clearly a lot of quality there, and being 25 years old, he's only going to get better. So wonderful for him, and long may his great form continue. Now, obviously, with that 3-1 win against Norwich, we closed the gap to 6 points on Man City, and then they had a big game against Tottenham Hotspur in that evening, and again, for some reason, I decided to watch the game. And before the game, I thought I'm not going to bother watching this because it's going to be a 3-4-0 City. Given that all the stuff that's been going on around with Tottenham and Conte, especially in the media, I think he said to Sky Italia that Tottenham were weaker now that they had lost 4 players and only signed 2, and he wasn't particularly happy with how things went in the January window. He came out to clarify that those quotes were misinterpreted, and he claimed that the 4 players that did go, I think it was basically bullshit, if I'm being totally honest. He wasn't he was just trying to cover his tracks, and he tried to make it out as if that the 4 players they lost was because they spent a lot of money on bringing them in. So players like Lo Celso and Ndombele, Brian Hill and Dele Alli, they spent a lot of money on signing them. That was his justification. But any smart person can see through those lies. But anyway, going to the game, with the off-field stuff and their form as well. Spurs' form has been absolutely woeful in the Premier League, especially. Last 3 games, 3 defeats, only a couple of goals scored, lots conceded, and the mood just wasn't great. But Pep Guardiola said in his pre-match press conference that this was not going to be an easy game, and because they had lost the last 3, it would make it even more difficult in this match. And he proved to be right. And from the get-go, Spurs were outstanding. You can see what their game plan was. Let City have possession, which most teams let do because they're very good on the ball. Soak the pressure up, and I thought in midfield, Rodrigo Bentancur, I thought he had quite an interesting debut. For Conte to throw him in the magnitude of that match and the opponents, he gave the ball away, and let me rephrase that. He was very, very good on the ball, and his passing I thought was fantastic. Often he got caught, and that put Spurs on the back foot, really in a really dangerous area. But when he was given time, given space, he was really, really good, and particularly his passing up to Harry Kane, who showed in that game that form is temporary and class is permanent. That was by far one of the best performances Kane, or probably the best performance he's put in this season. Probably the best, I think, in the last two years. And for the first goal, unbelievable pass. For a so-called weaker foot to sweep that through the City backline, and for Son to run onto it with Kulusevski on the other side. And the game plan was, it was perfect. It was exactly what Tottenham were doing, and it's pretty much how they scored all 3 of their goals. With Kane dropping slightly deeper, playing that pass over the top to Son or Kulusevski, who had the pace, and then going from there. So great start for Spurs in that game. But if I'm being totally honest, I think City were robbed in that match. They absolutely battered Tottenham for large periods of the game, had so many shots on target too. I think hit the post once or twice. I think Gundogan also, like, he scored from a Lloris mistake, but he also went really close in the second half with a long range effort. But again, Spurs on that counter attack, they were always a threat, and the second goal pretty much a carbon copy from the first. I think this time it was Harry Winks who played it to Harry Kane, and again spotting Son, and the quality of Kane's passing is tremendous. Everyone thinks that he's a striker and he's the number 9, but he's not, and you can see why he actually took the number 10 shirt and why he doesn't want to give it up, because as good as his finishing is, his passing is just as good. And for the second goal, really great pass for a first attempt. Given that I think he was like on the right, like on the right channel and closer to the halfway line than he was to goal, to play that pass over the top of the Son, and he nearly pulled it off, was brilliant. And then fair play to Spurs. Yeah, the rest of the Spurs players, they were brave. They pushed forward when they saw they had an opportunity to score and to attack. And I think it was Ryan Sessegnon who picked the ball up, gave it to Son. And the two dangerous players in that Spurs team, Son and Kane, linking up yet again. And there was a stat that Sky Sports put up after that. It was the 36th time that those two had linked up together in their Premier League career and in Premier League history. So now I think that they're level with I think Dennis Bergkamp and Thierry Henry. So one little accolade Spurs can claim there. And given that they're going to be playing now for a few more years, that number will only increase. So great goal for Spurs to go 2-1 up. Went 3-1 up. Unfortunately for the third goal, it was ruled out for offside when Kulusevski was just straight a bit. And Spurs being Spurs, when when do they never not let you down? Conceding a penalty in the 93rd minute. I think it was a penalty. At the time I was obviously pretty unhappy about it, but looking back, Romero shouldn't have his hands that high. He can go to the ground, but you've got to keep your hands low. If you don't, you give the referee an option. And as we've seen on so many times this decision, when the referee goes over to the VAR monitor, they usually overturn their decision, and that's what happened. So Mahrez stepping up, he's been brilliant. Another player who's been in really good form this season. I think this is probably his best goal-scoring return for Man City since he signed for them, and I think probably his best since Leicester won the title. Great penalty, even though that's where he always goes. I think like 4 of his last 5 penalties were in the right direction, going towards the right of the goal. And Lloris, even though he went the right way and got pretty close, it was just a brilliant penalty from him, and nothing he could really do about it. So 2-2, and even then had Spurs come away with the point, I still, I think a lot of all Liverpool fans, myself included, we're still been, pretty satisfied with that. From the start of play to which was 9 points before we played, to then go to 6 points and then end up being 7 at the end of the day, it still would have been a good result. But unbelievably, Harry Kane. I mean, you can see why Guardiola wanted him in the summer, and you can see why they put £100 million for him. But he was unbelievable with that header, bigger, stronger than Kyle Walker, and he absolutely buried it, didn't he? And even if there were 2 goalkeepers in the net, neither would have saved it. So a wonderful moment for Tottenham, a wonderful moment for Liverpool. And obviously now that means we are within 6 points of them and have a big opportunity to close that to 3 points with our game in hand against Leeds on Wednesday, which I'll talk in a minute. But as for the title race, it's now wide open. Providing we do beat Leeds on Wednesday, close that gap to 3 points, and that match at the Etihad in April, that's looking to be a absolutely humongous game. For both sides. Maybe less so for City because, let's say the gap is still 3 points up until that point, or even 1 point, they can afford to draw that match. But for us, it's absolutely imperative. And given that, I think when Man City beat Chelsea, I think it was sometime in January, they were 14 points clear at the stage. Obviously, we had 2 games in hand, but to have the points over the games is far more important. So for us, it shows again that the character in this team and the belief that they will never ever give up. So to have gone from 14 points in mid-January to now being in basically at the end of February, in basically 6 weeks, from 14 points to now 6, it's absolutely brilliant. And for the neutral as well, because no one likes seeing a procession. City obviously winning in 17-18 was spectacular. For them to go to 100 points. I think on that occasion it was like, okay, fair enough. We, the rest of the league wants to see greatness. They want to see someone, get 100 points. It's never been there before. And then, the year after, that Man City Liverpool title race, that was, one of the best title races, well, the best ever, in terms of quality. For two teams to get 97 and 98 points, it was quite remarkable. So it was special then. And then, even for a Liverpool fan myself, I didn't actually particularly enjoy the season where we won the title. Yes, we got 99 points, and yes, we were unbelievable. But for an actual title race, and for the neutral, it was absolutely garbage. The title race was pretty much over in November when we beat them 3-1. I think at the time we went 10 points clear, and it was definitely dead and buried in by mid-January when we were like 15 points clear. So hopefully now on this occasion, it won't be a procession for Man City or even Liverpool if the drastic happens for Man City and they end up losing the next like 4 in a row or whatever. So we should have a really, really good title race, and one that will hopefully go down to the wire. And going on from that point, we have obviously got, I know it won't happen, it's even ludicrous for me to even suggest that, and ludicrous for it to be in the header there. But the possibility is there for a quadruple. I'm not taking it seriously. You can tell from my tone and my expression that it's not going to happen. But technically, as it stands, and mathematically, it is still very much possible. Obviously, we discussed about the title, but the fact that we're 6 points behind now, can't make it 3. And being in the Carabao Cup final this Sunday, I think it's the first time in 10 years that we're in the final. We beat Cardiff in 2012 on penalties to win that last time out. So the possibility is, of course, still there. And coming up against Chelsea, when we played them at the beginning of the season in August, they were a different Chelsea to the Chelsea we are seeing now. Then they were really, really difficult to break down. You couldn't score past them. But now, fast forward 6 months, their striker doesn't want to be there. He doesn't look interested, and Lukaku produced 7 touches against Crystal Palace on Saturday. So that's very, very alarming. And then not only that, injuries have ravaged them. Sadly, as we saw with Liverpool last season, having no centre backs cost us the league title and any trophies. And it's looking to be the same for Chelsea this season, but with their fullbacks, Reece James and Ben Chilwell, who are absolutely crucial to Thomas Tuchel, both in terms of their supply going forward with assists and goals. I think there was one point when Lukaku was injured in November that they were the top scorers in the Chelsea team. I think they had like 5 apiece at that stage. So to have lost Ben Chilwell for the rest of the season, I think he picked up an injury in November or December, and Reece James as well. He's been in and out with injuries in recent weeks. I think he's missed the last 6 now. I think the last 2 have been with COVID, and the 4 before that was with hamstring injuries. So it's taking this toll on the Chelsea team. And not only that, I think the mentality around the club isn't particularly strong, purely because of the contract situation where Antonio Rudiger, Andreas Christensen, and Cesar Azpilicueta, 3 of their main starters in the team, and Aspi being the captain, all look set to leave at the end of the season when their contracts expire. So things at Chelsea, whilst they are picking up results, they are picking up 3 points here and there. Just won the Club World Cup. It's not like a completely happy camp, if I'm being totally honest. So for the overall scheme of things, from how things were in August and how difficult that task was to try and beat Chelsea to how it is now, is definitely more achievable. And I still very much could be wrong. Chelsea have an outstanding record in finals. We've seen it under Thomas Tuchel so far. FA Cup final, Champions League final, Super Cup, Club World Cup. 4 or 5 finals, however many that is, and they've only lost 1 of them. So Tuchel knows how to win trophies, and it will be a very, very good match hopefully on Sunday. So for the quadruple, yeah, it might happen, it might not happen. Who knows? Of course, we're also in the FA Cup still, which is quite surprising because normally we're out of the out of the domestic competitions around this stage. But thankfully, the gods have been on our side this time around, and we've had 2 easy draws in the first 2 rounds against. I think I can't remember who played in the 3rd round, but it was Cardiff in the 4th round, and now we've got Norwich in the 5th round. So, of course, yeah, Norwich will be difficult as we saw on Saturday, but again, we should have enough to go past them. And then being in the quarterfinals, if you win that, you're at Wembley again for the semi-finals, and then hopefully for the final. So FA Cup still very much a possibility. Champions League, of course, which is a big target for us. And whilst the tie is not dead and buried, you can never rule out anything in the Champions League, as we've shown on so many occasions in the past. But we do have a very good foothold in the match against Inter Milan, winning 2-0 in the first leg at their ground. So having Anfield in to use in a few weeks' time, it shouldn't be very good for us. And hopefully the draw is kind to us again in the quarterfinals. So definitely a lot to be excited about for a Liverpool fan. And I think the biggest thing as well is having the strength in depth, as you can see right there in the bottom. Because honestly, I think for the first time under Jurgen Klopp, we actually have a complete squad. When you look at the options we have in every position, other than right back, and that's only because we let Nico Williams leave on loan to Fulham, and our options then are now to use either James Milner, Joe Gomez, or an academy player called Connor Bradley. We have strength in depth in every position. Even like you look at our goalkeeper situation, we have Kevin Kelleher, who's been unbelievable this season, and in fact will start against Chelsea on Sunday. So it shows the quality that he has and the faith that Klopp has in him. So he's going to be starting the cup final on Sunday. But then you look at centre back. Van Dijk is now back to his best. I think he's been unbelievable the last few weeks. Matip, surprisingly, I'm amazed. We're in February now, and touch wood, he's not been injured this season yet. I think as well it's helped by the fact that he's not played every single week. He's not started every single match. So, but then when he's not starting, we have Ibrahim Konate, who I think has been brilliant so far for us. And given that he's only 22 years old, he's only going to get better. And given as well that some of the matches he's played against and some of the teams he's played against this season, he clearly shows that he's able to compete at the biggest level. He started against Inter Milan, he started against Man United in that 5-0 win. And he was absolutely he didn't look out of place, and in fact I thought he was just as good as Van Dijk in those matches. So having him there, and then of course Joe Gomez, who's barely played this season, having him there as an option is really, really good for us. Left back as well, Andy Robertson, one of the best in the world, and the best in the league in my opinion. And even his deputy Kostas Tsimikas, who has actually shared the load this season. I can't remember how many appearances he's made this season, but whenever he started, he's looked very, very good, both defensively and offensively. So defense looks very, very good. Midfield, of course, we have Hendo, Fabinho, Thiago, which is, for me, the first choice 3. But even then, you got backups in that position. Harvey Elliott, which is brilliant to see him back now. And, even though he was used as a right winger at Fulham when he was there and at Blackburn last season, Klopp clearly wants to use him in a midfield 3. So that's another option we have there. Curtis Jones, of course, who, is still very, very young. And I think a lot of people at the club have high hopes for him. James Milner's still there, of course. And, obviously he is getting really, really old now, but he's still someone you can rely upon on many, many occasions. Naby Keita is there. He started the last couple of weeks. Oxlade-Chamberlain is there. So loads of options in midfield. I can't remember. I've lost count of how many names there were. I think about seven or 8. So great to see that. And, we've seen in the last few weeks that, by having a fully fit squad, there's been a lot of rotation, which has been brilliant for all the players in that midfield to get a rest here and there to, recharge their batteries, avoid, picking up any muscle injuries. And in the main, when people have been rotated in, they've all done a very good job. And then, of course, lastly, in attack now, for so long we've been crying out for quality backup for Salah, Mane, and Firmino. And at long last, it's finally here. Obviously, Diogo Jota came in the beginning of last season. He's been unbelievable, one of the best signings under Jurgen Klopp, I think, and is only going to get better. I think he's got 10 or 11 Premier League goals this season and nearly 20 in all comps. So brilliant for him. And then of course Luis Diaz, who is looking very, very good and really promising. So wonderful to have that squad depth. And even now, Divock Origi is still there. I think he will be leaving at the end of the summer, but to have that option as well for a few more months is great. Minamino, who I think has actually done fairly well this season, particularly in the cups. He's played a big part so far in helping Liverpool get to the Carabao Cup final and get far into the FA Cup. So having him, he looks a bit more settled and a bit more accustomed to what Jurgen Klopp wants from him. So even him having that option is really good. So the strength and depth is fantastic. And up against Leeds now, of course, on Wednesday, likely we'll see a lot more changes in that team. I think I'd like to see Joe Gomez start again. I think he'll start alongside Van Dijk. I think Van Dijk is undroppable no matter what. Now I think he's fully fit and providing he doesn't suffer another freak injury, touch wood, he rarely gets little niggles here and there. I think Simicast will start again on Wednesday because Robert will probably start on Sunday. I think Trent will come back in. He was given an entire rest against Norwich on the weekend, so great for him to have a little break. As for the midfield, I think it'll be Fabinho coming in. I think Harvey Elliott will start as well. And as for the last spot, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw James Milner start in that game because, I don't think he'll be in the team on. Definitely don't think he'll be in the team on Sunday. And like I said, having that option in the team, that experience, that know-how, I think I wouldn't be surprised to see him start. And then up front, I think it will be Salah, Mane, and Diaz again. Maybe we might see Divock Origi for one of those three. Obviously, there would have been more changes, but I think sadly Firmino and Jota are going to be out for that match, so I don't think they'll be starting. There's still some hope that they will be available for the cup final on Sunday, which is of course a very, very important match. And even if they're like 60% ready for Wednesday, I would rather they just not play at all, not even be in the squad, and just make sure they're fully fit for a very important game. And then of course Leeds, as for them, they had a really interesting loss, I like to say. Actually, no, it's not interesting. It was a typical Leeds loss against Man United on Sunday. They're absolutely dreadful defensively. They can't defend, and given the fact that they were the team that allowed Man United to score their first corner of the season, it shows how bad they are from set pieces. And United, they were far better for most of the match, and even in that crazy 24-second period, it was 24 seconds when Rodrigo got that lucky goal to make it 2-1, and then Rafinha came in at the back post to make it 2-2 a few seconds later. United in general, they controlled the match and they were far better, and they were good to watch actually for large periods of the match. I thought Bruno was really good. Sancho, actually, I'm very pleased for him. Even though yes, he plays for United, he is an England player, and he is someone we will be calling upon on the national level in years to come. So I think slowly and surely, in the last couple of weeks, he's getting accustomed to life in England and life at Manchester United. He got a couple of assists in that match, so good. But happy for him, and hopefully he keeps that form up for himself, and it'll obviously help for England. So Leeds in that match, it basically summarized what they're all about. They're really exciting going forward. They'll always score goals and they'll always be a threat. But at the back, they're never gonna be good enough, and they're never gonna not concede goals in a match. So hopefully, irrespective of how many changes we make for that game, we'll get the job done, and then most importantly, keep the pressure on to Manchester City. I think arguably this is probably our biggest game of the season because of the significance of it and the fact that we will be right on Man City's coattails if we can win that match. So hopefully for 3 points, and then beating Chelsea on Sunday and capping off what could be a very, very good week. But that is all we've got for today. I hope you've all enjoyed this podcast, and obviously apologies again for missing the last few weeks. But we will be back now with far more regular videos and live streams. And we'll be back again next weekend. Next week to review the cup final, which will hopefully be a good result for Liverpool, and to look ahead with the other results and other fixtures. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all later. Bye.